Welcome back here on our red carpet for the Minnesota Micro Film Festival. This is all funded by the Minnesota Humanities Center, and we're celebrating Indigenous Month, and that is quite exciting to welcome in our guest right next to me. It's Missy Whiteman, and you have two films here in the festival. Can you start by telling us a little bit of background on both of these films?
Yeah, definitely. I'm so excited and honored to have both films at the Twin Cities Micro Film Festival. The first one is The Coyote Way Going Back Home, and it's a short sci-fi docu-narrative. It's about a young boy named Charlie who has to decide whether or not to join a street gang or to go on an epic pilgrimage. And the first one is We Come From the Stars, which is a documentary about the relationships between our Dakota relatives, our Anishinaabe relatives, and Arapaho relatives, and the star stories that we have around space, place, land, and migration.
And both such wonderful topics. I'm glad that you brought them to us. We're going to start with The Coyote Way, Going Back Home. And I want to touch on the fact that you have two different genres and how that worked to help tell this story.
Yeah, it's definitely a hybrid film. And so by trade, or by, I'm going to say this, like my beginnings really is in visual arts. And so I consider myself more of an art house filmmaker. And so this film really is about all of these different pieces that tell our creation stories, that tell our stories of our people. But for us as Indigenous people, a lot of our stories are not linear. So filmmaking is linear. And we think about our stories in a secular way that are in cycles. And so if we think about multi-dimensions, right? And we think about like how we tell these stories in film, that can be a challenge. And so if we bring in different narratives and different genres, it really can blend the storyline and tell it in a way that is true to Indigenous thought and storytelling, if that makes sense.
Yes, in which we need filmmakers like you to help show us and lead that way. So thank you. And Missy, I also want to touch on the fact that you wore multiple hats. You had so many roles on this film. Can you tell me what was your favorite and what you enjoyed most on this film?
Yeah, as an independent filmmaker, filmmakers plural, we have a lot of hats. We have to learn a lot of different pieces of filmmaking. And so as a writer, director, producer on this film, I also got to step in as, crew if people maybe didn't show up, because this is a very short film that was a very small budget. But as far as the roles that I have, it can be anything from I'm driving actors here, or I am, even taking the camera and filming. And so the multidisciplinary component of filmmaking comes in this film. And I tell people all the time it's really important to learn all aspects of film so that if anything happens on your film, you want to know what you're doing. Yeah.
You could step in, like you said.
Definitely.
What was your favorite? Did you have a favorite of one of those?
I'd have to say my favorite was the scene with the Wild West because I loved working with our costume designer and I loved working with their makeup artist and I loved just even helping to set up the scene and lighting and everything and just seeing it come to life in front of the camera and just seeing what it looked like and have that like vision come to life there. Yeah.
And you touched on the main character. He's having to face a pivotal moment and a challenge in his life. Can you talk about what that's like and what maybe you want the audience to take from that?
Yeah, I feel like for young people, especially today, we always have these decisions, right? It's like, do I go left?
No, sometimes
or right?
too many decisions. Yes.
I think today it's a little different, right? It's more than one. Let's narrow it down to three, right? So in this piece, it's really about like, do I go left or right? And if I go left, what do I learn here? And the amazing thing about that choice is that he gets a second chance, to go into the unknown and into the void and to the space that scares him. And, really my understanding is like when something scares you, that's the direction you should go, right? Yeah.
Such a powerful message. So I'm glad that the audience gets to see it here in just a little bit. We want to touch on your second film here before we get off the red carpet. And of course, with this film also comes what is the takeaway that you're hoping that this audience gets to have?
I feel like I really would like for the takeaway that I would love for our audience to have is to really have a better understanding of our traditional stories and teachings, but in a way that is collaborative amongst all tribes. And looking at the state of Minnesota and looking at the land here in a different way, not just about land, but the connection to the stars and the connection to our stories, but most importantly, the connection to one another as human beings. Yeah.
And how can we continue to support you in your filmmaking endeavor? Is there somewhere we can follow your work?
Definitely. I have Instagram, which is Missy Whiteman. Right now I have a piece up at the right now I have a piece at the Minneapolis St. Paul International Film Festival. It's called Starseeds, and it is in the B Tunnel, and it's an immersive piece at the airport. It's video installation, and it also has augmented reality.
Well, I wish I would have known that. I was just at the airport, so I'll have to go back. I'll have to go back.
You have to make a note.
Yes.
B Tunnel.
Yes, B-Tunnel, everyone.
Yep.
But Missy Whiteman, thank you so much for joining me here on our red carpet.
Thank you so
and
much.
looking forward to seeing your film again.
Thank you so much.
We'll be back here on our red carpet, more filmmakers in our series to come.